All right. Well, on Tuesday, October 14, Meta announced that teens on Instagram will be restricted to seeing PG-13 content by default and won't be able to change their settings without a parent's permission. So, how will this move help safeguard teens online? That's the question. Digital literacy and skills development specialist Kadia Francis now joins us via Zoom to weigh in on the new development. Good morning to you, Miss Kadia. How are you?
Morning, Kadia.
Hi, morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. Let me start.
Yes.
It can work, though, because them youngsters so bright. I mean, after you do that, and 2 days later, mommy said, "What? How come you get to that page?" It can work.
Well, it's heading in the right direction, right? To kind of limit the harmful content or the potentially harmful content that teens have access to on a daily basis. The only problem is sometimes that harmful content can be created by other teens, right? But it is heading in the right directions. There have been a lot of issues and concerns about the type of content that children are seeing and the impact that it has on them psychologically and sometimes physically.
No, I accept and I like the idea. I'm just thinking about logistically. And as you just said a while ago, other teens can do this. So how does mom and dad, how do they monitor this? How do they ensure that it is happening? What happens there that I have to go to mom and dad and say, I would like to see this, or I would like to see that?
Well, bearing in mind that before last year, when Instagram created teen accounts, technically speaking, teenagers were not supposed to be on Instagram, but they were finding that it was happening anyway. And that raised the concern about how much monitoring parents are doing of their teenagers online. Teenagers really, under a certain age, shouldn't have unfettered access to the internet. So regardless of what the platforms are doing, the impetus is on the parents to make sure that they're monitoring. So what Meta is saying is that we're going to help you or facilitate you being able to do that by putting in measures where you can actually control how your teen uses the platform, when they use the platform, and what they see. Is it far-reaching enough? Maybe not, but as I said, it's a step in the right direction.
Katie, I have a question for you. We'll have two questions, right? Is it specific to each country, or is this something that's going to be a global restriction? But also, as you know, Katie, there's something called a VPN, where, you know, in certain countries, if it's a restriction there, you can actually switch the country that you're in.
Well, once Meta rolls it out across their platform, regardless of wherever you are, once you have access to Instagram, then it applies. But as it relates to each country, I think this response from Meta is actually in response to the EU and the Digital Services Act that allows EU countries to raise the age of access from social media. So standard is 13, but most countries are starting to raise that to 16, even 17. So Finland, Spain, France have all introduced legislation to raise the age of access again because they have concern. And even outside of the EU, you see countries like Australia and India all introducing legislation to raise that age. So I think that's what this is in response to from Meta. And Meta keeps bumping heads with the EU because of how they operate. So I think what they're trying to do as well is to compete with platforms like TikTok that attracts more young people to say, hey, parents, listen, we understand what you're saying. We're trying to work with you. These are the things that we're doing. We're safe. I think that's what it is. But once they roll it out across all their platforms, it impacts everybody. And a VPN don't really hide your age, because how the technology works is that they're looking at the content that you consume and then make an assessment as to whether they think you are young or not young, and then block that content and block the creators who create that kind of content. So that's how the technology works. So it would apply to anyone who's using the platform.
Katie, for those who don't even understand why you have restrictions for the young people, what are we protecting them from?
A whole host of problems, Neville. starting with physical harm. You have people who prey on teenagers, especially teenage girls, on social media platforms, which is why I said it's a start but not far-reaching enough, because once the DMs are open, it all goes down in the DMs. So once the DMs are open, you can have access to children, and that can lead to physical harm. Young people not protecting their location, being in their school uniforms on social media, inadvertently giving away their address on social media can lead to people finding them and causing harm. But there's also the psychological aspect of it. Social media has led to the loss of what we call third spaces, which are spaces outside of school and home where social interactions happen. So like the mall or the library. When I was younger, we would go to the library to hang out. So there's not a lot of hanging out that is happening in real life, but it's happening online, and it is causing issues with communication.
Yep.
It's also affecting how they operate in school. Teachers are complaining that social media language is finding its way into essays and into how they write and communicate in the classroom. So there are several things that can happen, but one of my biggest issues is how social media can blunt young people, leading to a lack of empathy, because when you're constantly bombarded with harmful content, it has a blunting effect, and that can lead to a whole heap of other issues that can also cause harm to oneself as well as to the family, to friends. It can lead to depression because you're constantly comparing yourself to other young people, to other people on the internet, and internet culture seeps into real life. So what internet culture says is attractive, internally reflect that, and that can be harmful. So there's a lot that's going on with social media that if we're not monitoring our kids, if we're not evaluating what they're looking at, can lead to some real world problems.
Yep. You said a couple of times since we started this interview, Kedia, that it has not gone far enough. Where else do you want, or where do you want to see them take this?
As I said, other teens can also create harmful content. So, how are they going to monitor content from other teens and prevent other teens from seeing it? But my biggest issue is access to young people through the internet, through social media platforms. I'm unsure if a part of the parental controls is for them to turn off DM, but if I was to advise parents, that's the first thing I would tell them to do. Limit access to your children through social media. Turn off any means for people to communicate with them directly, because that can also lead to financial harm through scams or phishing, right? So turn off the DMs completely. Limit screen time. The World Health Organization has a guideline for screen time for young people and how many hours they should actually be on their telephones per day. Get them outside more. As we said, go touch grass, go outside, interact with friends, socialize them in other ways outside of social media. Yep. So that's what I would advise. It's a start, but it doesn't go far enough in protecting young people in terms of who can get in touch with them, the kind of communication they're actually having on social media. And the argument can be raised that, are they even supposed to be there in the first place? Yep. How good is this technology? I know other platforms like YouTube are using AI to do the same thing, restrict content. Yep. But again, if other platforms are not cooperating or not doing the same thing, the teenagers are just going to go where they can see the kind of content that they want to see, Snapchat or TikTok or any other social media platform. Yeah. So one platform doing it is well and good, but if we don't have a coordinated effort across other social media platforms, they're just going to migrate to other places where they can see that kind of content as well.
The other day I was asked to send a video, and I sent the video, and then the person said, send it HD, and I didn't know how to do that. And I actually, one of my colleagues, I gave him the phone and I said, do this for me. What about those parents like me who don't understand Wagwan and, them kind of get bamboozled? I need a quick answer because we have to go to news.
To be honest, I don't think you need to be tech savvy to know that our children are being harmed, and unfettered access to the internet can be harmful to children, whether you know how to send a video or not. You know that certain video may contain harmful content, so you need to limit what your teenagers are doing online, and it means proactive monitoring of how they are using the internet, and that's really where it starts.
All right.
And I also think we need to emphasize digital literacy in our schools as well, because it can't just be the parents and it can't just be the platform.
Right.
It has to be a societal effort to monitor what they're seeing and helping them through social media. Social media can be a very heavy thing.
We have to jump in because we have to go to news. Very well explained, and thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. All right, there you go. Kedia Francis, a digital literacy and skills development specialist. Still to come, a math fun stop, but the second edition of News in 5 is right now. Stay with us, please.